let's take a look at demons. I'm on a kick of doing games that make me miserable, and this seems like a good example. I'm actually building up to something, but I haven't worked my way through the rules that's going to make me really miserable, I can tell. But I've never played that. This I've played, I may have tried it with the solo rules. It's designed as a solo game, but with multiplayer rules in it that don't quite work. Okay. So we're going to play it multiplayer, of course. Well, honestly, I'm not interested in a game where I'm just trying to figure out beat the game type of thing. That doesn't excite me. So I want to see how this, I want to show how this plays multiplayer. And you can probably get some idea of what it's worth as a solo game from that, if that's of any interest. So this was designed in '79, which was, after War of the Ring, SPI got into, let's try doing fantasy stuff. We can probably do well with it. Well, without the huge market bonus of War of the Ring, you probably have to actually make good games to make them work. And in this case, Dunnigan kind of didn't make a terribly good game at all, even as a solo game. And otherwise, it's pretty iffy. So you have a bunch of these demon counters, which you're going to be working on summoning. Each player has their own little character counter here, which has either a hidden or found marker, a shield, which they can track how good their magical shield is. There's a bunch of mortals here, who are your primary enemies. This is where you're going to keep the demons that you've got under control. This is the treasure track. And you'll see how silly this game is multiplayer when we see how the treasure track works. The treasure track doesn't really work multiplayer. You need some other kind of indicator to indicate who actually owns the treasures. And you could write them down on paper if you wished. Okay. So, the base of the game is you're going to be taking turns, and, well, first, the mortal units all get a chance to move. If they roll equal to or greater than the number of hexes separating them from the nearest magician, they'll run towards that magician. And they have a strength point value on them. I think they have 4 movement points. And then each magician in fixed order gets to move, and they start by coming on the board over on this side and walking around. They have 5 movement points instead of 4. And then they're allowed to, they're also allowed to conjure demons at the same time. And then they're allowed to use their demons. The goal of the game is essentially to capture these treasures. Which I think the value is this number up here. We'll get to that in a little bit. The rules, unfortunately, aren't in an SPI normal format. They're in the let's bold things because role players and the type of people who like this game can't deal with something without bolds jumping out. But they're not too hard, I don't think. It's just they don't stick as well. So you're going to be collecting treasures, and eventually you can leave the map. And once you leave the map, you've got your value, your worth that you've gotten from exploring Armenia. If you don't make it out alive, well, you don't. And you're going to be, at the beginning of the game, you get a choice of what level shield to get, from copper upwards. And for every level above copper, you pay 15,000 ducats that you're going to owe, which means you need to get more treasure off the map in order to win. If you're playing a solo game, you pay 20,000 ducats per level, including copper, and you have to just leave the map with a positive score. Movement is pretty standard for an SPI game. You got a terrain effects chart here that handles all the movement costs. You can't enter an enemy-occupied hex. You have to stop when you enter adjacent to an enemy unit. Okay. When mortals move next to a magician, they have a discovery combat phase afterwards, and what they're going to do is combine all their combat strength points, and then roll a die on here to see what happens. If they get a D, they've discovered the mortal, and then they can attack him, or the magician, and then they can attack him. If they get an E, the magician has the right to move away 1 hex. The actual combat is going to be resolved on the combat results table. The mortals add up all their strength versus however many demons, and the demons have strengths on them. We'll take a look here. They have a number of values, but they have a combat value here. Those can be used in defense. You commit your demons to fight. If you win the fight, I think your demons are fine. If you do not win the fight, though, we have different results here. But basically, you compare the strengths, and the attacker is going to be the mortals in this case. They can go up to +7. But any attackers can make it to the 0 table. So even if you're facing a weak attack, or if you throw a lot of demons at him, it doesn't matter. He's still going to get you on the 0 table and has a chance of doing something to you. Magicians can attack demons, can attack any enemy occupied hex. I think that includes another magician. Magician must throw at least 1 demon into any fight. And the results of the combat come up from there. If you get a DF, the defender flees. Okay. So if a magician gets an F result, he loses the demons that he uses. If it's a mortal, he's going to flip over and have to run back to his starting hex. And once he gets back there, he'll unflip. But he can't overstack, like he can't mix with another unit. A DX is destroyed or captured, or an X is destroyed or captured. If it's a mortal unit, it's dead, it's out of the game. They are mortal after all. If it's a magician, he gets captured by the mortal units or by an opposing magician, and he can be dragged off somewhere to be tortured. Okay. So when you want to conjure, if you do that instead of moving, and the way you conjure is that you're going to use the conjuration table, and that gives you a modifier based on the type of shield you have, and you pick a specific class of demon you want to go after. That modifier is going to be a modifier to your die roll. You roll a die, you get a number, and you draw that many demons. If you can control them all, great. If you can't, you got to release some. Some demons are going to be unfriendly. You can't control them at all. Unless you have the magic ring of Solomon. I think if you get a negative, you're cursed. Yeah. Any negative number you get off of this is a number of curses that you get. And you have 4 hit points. And wounds and curses both count against you equally. If you take all 4, you're dead. Friendly demons have an F on them. They can be used for a couple of things. You can trade them in. You can trade them in order to improve your shield display. But there's something else you can use them for. They're not lost in combat unless you get a bad result. I believe neutral demons are lost if you use them no matter what. You can remove a curse for each friendly demon that you release. The Magic Ring of Solomon is one of the magic items. It's presumably on here, but I don't see it. Well, I don't know how you... Oh, no, it's in the Duke pile. So if you summon the Magic Ring of Solomon, you have that. That's going to... The big advantage of that is it allows you to successfully control unfriendly demons, which otherwise are just a bone, like those demons that are unfriendly. Oh, sorry about that, folks. trying to plug in because my power wasn't charged up fully and bumped the zoom, and it stays bumped nowadays. Okay. Each demon, well, many of the demons have letter powers. You're allowed to use that power and basically discard the demon, and you get that effect. And some of them allow you to like take over another person's demon or whatever. Okay, what about the treasures? So in order to find a treasure, you have to use the discover treasure power. Otherwise, you're not going to get any money at all in the game, right? Okay. That's great. But in order to do that, and this is where it gets goofy in the non-solo game, what happens is you roll 2 dice on here, and you put the demon in a location to indicate, hey, I found this. Now, each demon has a precedence number. What you have to do to take the treasure is once somebody, my plug's not over, there we go. Once somebody ends up discovering it, anybody can go there and play a demon with a higher precedence. And the precedence is this number here. And then at some point in the rules, they explain that a higher precedence means a lower number. But not right there. And the way you mark that you captured that is you put your second demon on top of it, and that means you own the treasure. Well, that won't work in more than one player, so I'm going to be using some little fish beads or something on top of the treasure to indicate who actually owns it. And then it no longer really matters if there's a demon on top of it. Except that you have to have some way of marking that their treasures are no longer in the game, that they've been discovered already. How much are treasures worth? I don't know. Okay. So when you release the demon, you roll a die, and it has to be equal to or less than the first number at the top of the appropriate square of the treasury discover grid. I guess that 4 there, for example. And then the treasure is captured. The value in thousands of ducats will be the second number on the grid. Okay. If you don't like... Oh, there goes my power again. Yeah. Not going to work. Keep playing with it. Probably bump the thing. Yep. Yeah, I should use the other camera, right? Yeah, I don't know. I hate the other camera. It formats things all wrong. I got 2 fucking useless cameras. Okay. Yep. And I can't have that on the cable at all. So the problem I'm having here is just guaranteed on that one. Except it does charge elsewhere. And I'll keep complaining about this all my life, probably, until this one breaks, and then I'll get used to the other one. Okay, so you can raise the power of your shield, and the way you do this is during your conjuration phase, instead of conjuring, and I guess instead of moving, you can try to raise your shield 1 level, and you count your number of friendly demons. Add to this number the number of separate treasures you are going to discard. You roll a die. If the result is equal to or less than the number of demons and treasures used, number of treasures, not the value, then your shield level goes up by 1. So that could end up being a deal if you find lots of cheap treasures, I guess. Demons controlling treasures in this process are removed from the treasure discovery grid. Well, that doesn't work because then the treasure isn't marked off anyway. So you got to have some way of marking that the treasure's not there. The way I would do it is if the demon was face up, I'd turn it face down so just that's on it, I guess. Or maybe put some stone or something on it. Who knows? Okay. So in order to control your demons, you have to have, you take your highest ranked controlling demon, and he'll be placed face down in the lowest box corresponding to his rank. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, there aren't really lowest boxes. I mean, for Duke there's 2, but for everything else there's just 1 box, so whatever. And then he can control demons of his rank or less, going up the chart, essentially. You're allowed to conjure demons that you have no boxes for, but then the demon just runs away. In the demon use phase, for some reason, you can have extra demons. And you can designate new controlling demons at any time. So if you draw a more powerful demon, you can put it in control. Okay, magicians can be killed and tortured. So the mortals will torture you if they bring you home. Home? I don't know. I think if they just have you with them. Whenever torture is performed, a die is rolled. And you can do this to other players during the demon use phase. A die is rolled. On a 1, you cause 2 wounds. On a 2 or through 4, you cause 1 wound. And on a 5 or 6, you cause no wounds. The magician can't be tortured the phase in which he's captured. And a mortal unit will torture you automatically each turn unless you give up a treasure. If you give up a treasure, they don't torture you that turn. So you don't roll a die. A magician can't torture someone who's got 2 or more wounds because they might kill him that way. So, you can drag him around with you, but you can never do anything to him. A magician can use demon powers in the same phase that he tortures. Mortal units that have a captured magician will not pursue or attack others until they execute the magician or he escapes. Well, how does he escape? A magician killed under torture, the mortal unit retains only the treasure that was on his person. He captures it all. And that's important if you have Solomon's ring with you, because if a mortal gets Solomon's ring, it immediately goes up to bid. And people can bid treasures on that. And it's done with a sealed bid, I think. Just in case that happens. Treasures obtained by a mortal never leave the mortal unit's base hex. But then you can go kill the mortal and take the treasure from. But you have to send a demon to the base hex to claim the treasure. And that would have to be all handled on some extra materials that the game doesn't provide. You can conjure demons while you're captured. You lose 1 from the die roll, and 1 is subtracted from the die roll for each wound or curse that you have. When you lose a treasure due to torture, you must record the loss separately. I don't see any escape. I assume that there are demon powers that allow you to escape, because I don't believe you're allowed to attack. But I don't see any rules on that either when I look through these. So I don't know. Maybe you can attack the mortal you're with, or maybe you have to attack all the ones around him. It's not really clearly stated. That's okay. It's not a good enough game to have complete rules, is it? All right. And on the back of this little sheet, actually both of them, you have historical notes and the conjuration. Great. Okay, let's send it up and give this thing another shot. But I have to tell you, I gave it like a 3 rating or something. I remember it being piss poor. And again, as a solitaire game, it might be just fine, but I don't enjoy those type of games at all.